you very much. Thank you. Let me begin by paying my respects to our traditional leaders and to thank you for attending on us at very short notice. I'm happy that so many of you are here, even though the notice was short. I also want to acknowledge our mothers, the Queen Mothers, for also accompanying you to this function. Let me thank our pastors of the Christian community for your prayer, and also to thank you for coming. Let me thank our imams and Muslim leaders for joining us in this interaction. I'm not going to speak for long because we've kept you waiting for a little while, and so I'll just touch on a few things. Ghana is a country that was founded in 1957, and since independence we have gone through good times, bad times, but we have survived as a nation. We've been through crisis before, but we have always been able to survive. But I must say that even though we have seen hard times, we've seen crisis, this time is probably the worst crisis we have ever experienced. Because in all the crises that we have had, for the first time in our history, this is when we've overborrowed to the extent that we declared to the whole world that we are bankrupt. So as I speak today, we're not servicing our debts because we've told our creditors that we can't pay. And so our debts are not being serviced. What they've done is to restructure the debts so that we spread out the debts, and then they've given what they call haircuts. And so if I owed you 100 cedis, we'll cut off about 25 cedis and say that, okay, pay 75, but stretch it over this period. This is the first time we found ourselves in a crisis like that. They say we've been to the IMF 17 times, but all those times we've been to the IMF, it was just to stabilize the economy. It was never because we couldn't afford to pay our debts. This current IMF program we're going to has two prongs. One, to stabilize the economy, and two, to restructure our debts. And the debts are not owed only to foreigners, they are owed also to our own people. If you go anywhere in the world, government bond is the safest investment you can make, because governments don't default on bonds. And so if you have money and you want to make sure that your money is safe and is invested, you buy a government bond. Unfortunately, NPP has shaken the faith of Ghanaians in government bonds. Tomorrow, if government is going to pay a bond, I wonder how many people will go and buy it, because they have defaulted on government bonds. Today, pensioners go to the Ministry of Finance and go and picket the Ministry of Finance in order that they can be paid for them to be able to buy their medicines. These are people on retirement, to be able to buy food for themselves and their families. And so we're going through crisis. But the crisis is not only to do with the economy, it's to do with every aspect of state institutions. Today, all the state institutions that under my government were making profit, today are all making losses. Cocoa Board is broke. They owe almost 12 billion cedis in debt. ECG is broke. They owe almost 8 billion cedis in debt. Produce Buying Company in 2017, 2016, they bought 30% of the total cocoa that was exported. This year, you know how much they bought? Zero. And their workers have not been paid for 10 months because PBC cannot pay their workers. Cocoa Board, I've told you already, is broke. And yet, when you are broke, they are spending even more money on headquarters and the management than even on the farmers. And so if you look at the Cocoa Board budget for last year, 3.4 billion cedis, they alone spent. Meanwhile, farmers are not being paid. You buy their cocoa, you don't have money to pay for the cocoa. When I was in office, we built a shea butter factory at Wiping to buy the shea nuts from the north, from our women, and process it into shea butter for export. The company had shea butter in stock, they had capital with which they were working. As soon as we lost, they sent somebody there, a community health nurse, to go and manage shea butter factory. She has collapsed it. She sold all the shea nuts, spent the money, capital gone. Today the factory is closed. This is the harm that this government has done to this country. Gihok Distilleries, it was established in Nkrumah's time. Of all the Gihok companies, there was Brick and Tile, Gihok Shoe Factory, Gihok Garments, Gihok, all kinds of Gihok factories. Of all the Gihok factories, only one survived. That is Gihok Distilleries, because it was producing alcohol. Alcohol is not difficult to market. When people are happy, they drink. When they are sad, they drink. When they are not happy or they are not sad, they drink. And so Gihok Distilleries has survived. It was making profit. During my tenure in office, they put a new production line from their own resources. Today, Gihok Distilleries, they can't even pay their workers because President Akufo-Addo put his in-law there to manage it. He's run the place down. And so, Ghana needs a reset. Those institutions belong to us. Those state enterprises belong to all of us. And so if one family comes and they put their people in places and run down state assets, and then when they have run it down, then they want to now come around and buy it for themselves. This cannot continue. And that's why we say the state capture must end. And that's why we have an opportunity to make a change in December. Our foreign currency should be stable because we are not servicing our debt. So we are not using dollars to pay our foreign debt. And yet the cedi is sliding. And that is also because the traditional industries that should be bringing us more foreign currency, they mismanage them. When I was leaving office, we produced, the last cocoa season before I left office, we produced 967,000 metric tons of cocoa for export. And it brought $2 billion direct into the economy. Today, they have produced just slightly above 400,000. And so they can't even raise $800 million to infuse the economy. There's no wonder that the cedi is not stable. Oil and gas production. I established 2 new oil wells, ENI Sankofa and the 10 field. And so when they came, we had an increase in oil production, oil and gas. Today, our oil and gas production has declined by 32%. Everything is declining under this government. 80% of Ghanaians say Ghana is going in the wrong direction. And when you're going in the wrong direction, what do? You change course. And so the time has come to change course. The time has come to send NPP packing. Let them go and rest and review their time in government. And maybe in the future, the people of government will give them another opportunity. But it's time for a safe pair of hands, an experienced hand to take over this country and turn our fortunes around. I want to thank Honorable Kletos for his maturity, and he has displayed that he is a real politician and that he's my elder brother. There's not many people in politics who know the time to stop and quit. Many people continue until the media end. Honorable Kletos looked and said, look, I've served my people. I've done my best. I was in Parliament. I went out of Parliament. I fought. I came back. It's time for me to hand over to the next generation. And that is why he and his brother Ebenezer were standing here. I want to thank him for what he's done and for the support he's giving the young man to also step into his shoes. Not everybody is able to do that. And so I want to also encourage Ebenezer to fight hard to win the constituency, and that he has my fullest support. And we pray that when he comes into Parliament, we would work closely with him to achieve the things that the chiefs and elders have put before us. We'll continue the electricity extension, where we extended electricity to most communities here in Sebila. It was under the NDC administration. Since we left, the electricity extension to communities has slowed down. I want to assure you that when we come, we would continue. What happens is the economy is in a mess, and so it's going to be difficult to raise resources, but we will prioritize so that the things that are of essential need to you are the things that we're going to look at. We're going to look at all the abandoned government projects, not only from this time, from Rawlings time through Kufuor's time, Mills time, any project that has been abandoned, even the ones that will not be completed by Akufo-Addo's administration, we will continue them and we will complete them so that the people of Ghana can benefit from it. Anytime NDC is in government, Bawku is at peace. Unfortunately, as soon as NDC leaves government, the Bawku crisis flares up again. And let nobody say it's a fight between ethnic groups. There is politics behind it. And there are people who deliberately fund that crisis. Everybody, the majority of people in Bawku, Kusasis, Mamprusis, Bimubas, Busangas, everybody wants peace. Because everybody wants peace to do his business. I mean, the current curfew in which we are, nobody likes it. Our chiefs are being told they can't wear smocks and go into town. So what is a chief supposed to wear? A shirt like me? How would they know he's a chief? And yet, it's because of the violence and the crisis. And they were forced to do it because people hide weapons in the smokes and go and shoot at people. But I can assure you that peace is our priority. When NDC comes, and I didn't say if, I said when NDC comes, we're going to prioritize Bawku's peace so that peace will return to the whole. And people can go about their business and look after their families. All the other things you said, I've taken note of them, the road network and all that. Fertilizer, when NDC was in government, fertilizer was about 150 cedis a bag. Today, fertilizer is more than 800 cedis a bag, and so the farmers cannot afford it. And so we need to bring down the price of fertilizer, subsidize it so that our farmers can buy and increase food production. Because the first thing a government owes its people is to be able to feed its people. You have to put food on the table before you talk about anything else. And we have the land, we have the water, we have the sunshine. Our weather here is much better than it is in Burkina Faso. We should be able to grow our own onions and our own tomatoes. And yet we rely on them to import all these things. And we import them in foreign currency. We have to change CFA to go and buy those onions and tomatoes. We import rice from Vietnam. We have to change dollars to go and bring the rice. But if we are producing the rice ourselves, we are producing everything that we eat ourselves, it will cut down the $3 billion import bill that we spend on food alone. And so our priority is going to be on food production, so that our farmers can produce more to be able to feed our people. And so that will be the number one priority that we have. And that's why I say we're going to open farmer service centers. There will be one here in Zebila, and all farmers will be required to register. We will measure their farms, how many acres you have. We know how many bags of fertilizer you need. We know what you're growing. If you're growing maize or whatever you're growing, we'll give you improved seeds to be able to increase your production. If you need a tractor, we'll come and plow for you. And then at the end of the harvest season, when you harvest and you go and sell your maize or whatever food you have produced, you come back and pay the Farmer Service Center the cost of the inputs that you were given. So that the next farming season, they will give you the support again. And so that's what we're doing. With women, the Women's Development Bank will give you small credit. And we expect that our Queen Mothers will all participate and organize the women so that we can assist them. With regards to the Hajj, I already announced that we're going to work to reduce the cost, because it is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. If you're a Muslim, you recognize 5 pillars, and the first is submission to the will of Allah. The 5th one is to perform the Hajj in your lifetime. But at 75,000 cedis, that is 75 million old cedis, how many people can perform the Hajj? And so when we come, we're going to cut it down drastically so that everybody who wants to go for Hajj will be able to do that. Public address system, Pastor, I'll take that on myself. I will supply the public address system for you so that you can do your evangelization. And then finally, the issue of Islamic schools, would look at that. And then for our Queen Mothers, a vehicle. We gave a vehicle, the former First Lady gave a bus to every regional Queen Mothers Association. I hear the bus is having problems, but I'll put your request to her. She worked very closely with Queen Mothers when she was First Lady. And I'm sure when she comes back, she's going to work very closely with you so that we can get the women together. Luckily, we have a woman as my running mate, and by the grace of God, we're going to have the first woman vice president in the history of the Republic of Ghana.